Welcome to C3 TV. Today we're interviewing a local person, Harwich resident, Patrick Otten. He has two citizens petitions coming up for the May 1st town meeting to be voted on in Harwich. These petitions have to do with environmental care, with wildlife care and wildlife habitat care. This is an expression of the 60-year-old environmental justice movement that was spawned in 1961 by Rachel Carson's publication of Silent Spring. These particular petitions have to do with fertilizer use in our local waters, the effects of fertilizer in our local waters, and also with lighter-than-air balloons, which affect our wildlife. Welcome, Patrick.
Well, thank you. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah?
Just why do you live on Cape Cod? Why do 5 million people sit in their cars every summer, 3, 4, 5 hours just to come to Cape Cod? For our restaurants and shopping? Well, perhaps, but they have all that at home. No, they come here and we are here because of our water, our fresh water and salt water, our 22 ponds and 11 miles of coastline. Realize, please, that we have a blue economy. Water is the reason we live here, and it needs to be protected and cared for. Our life and the tourism economy of Cape Cod is 100% based on our water quality. That is, good water equals a good life. If we have poor water or bad water, then life and tourism ceases. Without our water, we may as well be living in Kansas City.
Can you tell us how aware of this problem that the town of Harwich is?
Well, our water quality is frontline news. And, you know, our ponds and seashore and embayments and estuaries are all endangered by human source pollution from our septic systems, our fertilizers, and the runoff. This fact is emphasized by the amount of money allocated on the town warrant just to address these problems. There's $50 million for the Phase 2 expansion of East Harwich sewering. There's another $5.5 million for the Route 28 in West Harwich sewering. Each individual homeowner is going to have to pay out of pocket $15,000 to $30,000 just to connect to sewers. It's estimated that sewering alone will be $4 billion over the next 50 years. Also, there's $50,000 to give the Chamber of Commerce for promotion of the town of Harwich. Promoting what? A town with poor and polluted waters? I hope not. There's also $92,000 for the Skinnicut Pond treatment. Remember that Harwich has 22 ponds. If we have to treat all 22 ponds, that's over $2 million more we'll have to spend. So yes, we are all aware of the problem, that there is a problem with our waters.
Mm-hmm. Well, how do you see, what is your petition suggesting that how we take action about this problem?
Well, fertilizers are the second source of contaminants in our waters, fresh and salt. Our current landscaping habits and practices are endangering the environment we live in. So I have a home petition rule petition, which would allow Harwich to prohibit the application of fertilizers, accepting the commercial agriculture, and allows home use of organic fertilizers for growing fruits and vegetables only. Currently, Beacon Hill determines the regulation of fertilizers for the entire state. One rule, all the way from the mountainous western Mass all the way through to the sands of Provincetown. That's one rule for all of Massachusetts. Cape Cod is distinctly unique, one of a kind. Unlike anywhere else in Massachusetts, Cape Cod has porous soil in which the surface and groundwaters easily flow through into an underground aquifer. That then carries the pollutants into our ponds and the seashore. Given our unique geography and sandy soil, step one is that this home rule petition asks the Mass Legislature to allow Harwich to manage the application of fertilizers, not Beacon Hill. Step two then will be that Julian Cyr and Sarah Peake will move this to the Mass legislature. Until it is passed and approved by the Mass legislature, nothing happens, nothing changes. There's a 2-year window for the legislature to take action. Otherwise, it dies. However, once it is passed, it does become effective as written. So yes, it's a 2-step process. First, pass here in Harwich, and then second, pass in the Mass legislature. Notice that both Orleans and Nantucket have already passed this petition for home rule. The petition, word for word, is copied from both those petitions. And Sarah Peake has now introduced for Orleans into the Mass legislature Bill H.874.
So I've heard that rather than a legislative change to solve this issue, all we need is an educational program about how to apply fertilizers. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, sure. Why do we go to school? What's the point of being educated? Education implies becoming aware, changing our habits, acting for the larger whole, and getting the big picture, doing the right thing. We are all smart. We are all aware of the problem. Just look at the amount of dollars cited in the warrant. Here's what we need to learn. We need to learn that nature is our teacher. Nature and the natural ecology of Cape Cod ponds, the seashore, long ago figured out how to thrive and grow with our sandy soil and intermittent rains without the application of fertilizers. There's an example there without the application of fertilizers. We need to learn and follow nature and follow nature's lessons, not those of the commercial fertilizer industry.
Well, thank you for that. There is techniques and approaches in ecology which are called biomimicry, which means rather than just creating human technologies that override the natural processes of nature, we study the natural processes of nature. We study the systems that nature functions through. And then in dealing with our natural world and relating to it and working with it, we biomimic those processes to have results. So I appreciate that, that notion of learning from nature. So it seems to me that also landscapers would have a lot to say or take a special part in this process.
You're absolutely right. Landscapers do play an important role. Landscapers have already demonstrated that they follow the rules. We are lucky to have landscapers that are licensed, educated, smart, and certified. Otherwise, the problem would be much, much worse. This petition is only about the application of fertilizers. Do you remember when indoor smoking was first proposed to be prohibited? It was said that all businesses would fail, but the opposite happened. Businesses thrived. Families with kids went out to eat. The same will happen with landscaping. They will continue their maintenance and care, but hiring additional people to convert lawns to the Cape Cod lawns using native species and drought-tolerant species. Continuing and expanding, landscapers will be busier than ever. Here's an example. I actually talked to the district's facilities director of the Monomoy Regional Schools, and I asked him how do they care for their properties. And he said specifically, we do not use fertilizer or any products whatsoever on any of our grass, strictly water and sun. So there's a very good example how success can be had.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your suggestion of what's called Cape Cod lawns, which is an example of the direct application of biomimicry.
Right.
So now, I also have heard the idea that what's the point of making new regulations about the use of fertilizers? Who's going to enforce it? Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, this often comes up. Who's going to enforce it? I'm going to tell you that the enforcement, if this passes and becomes effective, will be the same as the enforcement that is done today. There is no fertilizer police today. there won't be any fertilizer police. When this passes, there'll be no change in enforcement. And here's the reason why. We are all smart. We follow the rules. Public consciousness will be the enforcement. For example, is there a police officer at every stop sign? Why do you drive on the right side of the road, not the left? Why do you dim your headlights? It's human behavior. We don't like being told what to do, but for our own good and for our safety, we do follow the rules. We do put on our seatbelts, and we do stop at the stop signs. Today, it is about caring for the environment. Let me give you a specific example. Doggy poop bags. Have you ever seen a doggy poop bag enforcer? No. But Brewster has already distributed 50,000 bags. Chatham has distributed 100,000 bags, all without enforcement. So public consciousness will be effective. We don't need a fertilizer police.
Okay, thank you for that. So before we move on to your second petition, do you have any concluding remarks?
Sure. You know, we have to keep in mind and remember that the number one asset to us and our economy is our waters, whether it be the ponds we love to swim in, or the seashores where we gather food from, or the aquifer we drink from. We are surrounded by waters, and it is imperative we strive to protect all bodies of waters. If the ponds become unusable, seafood unattainable, then we won't be happy living here, and the vacationers won't come, thus changing our economy. Remember, this petition has zero cost. Unlike the other articles, this petition has zero cost for implementing. So please support this petition.
Thank you. So now your second petition is about lighter than air balloons. Can you tell us what this is about?
Yeah, well, just take a look around you, okay? We all know about balloons. So this article will prohibit the sale, distribution, and use of any type of balloon inflated with any type of lighter than air gas within the town of Harwich. Why? Improper disposal of balloons and restraining attachments, often released to float and drift away or not properly disposed, are a significant, well-documented hazard to wildlife and marine life. We've all seen the horrific pictures of wildlife and marine life entangled in or ingesting balloons and their strings and ribbons. Balloons are another detrimental hazard found in and on our woodlands and waterways. By the way, this article is copied from existing bylaws of both Orleans and Chatham, so let's have all of Lower Cape be free of balloons.
Thank you, Patrick Otten, and thank you very much for your local work in the environmental justice movement. It's a key principle that the only way that we can enact changes in the way people relate to nature and our environment is through local activism.
That's right, Becky, so thank you for getting the word out.
You're quite welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us here today at C3 TV.